But also, if we look back at recent tournaments that they've been competing in, the Gdansk Regional Championship, the Stuttgart Regional Championship, and the Birmingham Regional Championship, Louis was able to win all of those events in a row.
Louis on an absolute tear this season, and let's see if they can keep it up with another consecutive win. Such recent achievements, and there they are, those teams on screen. This, for Louis, is the San Antonio Regional winning team. In fact, Louis was running this before Justin Tan and Xilian Tang were doing so themselves. Ian Larson, that's a team that we've seen piloted by Joseph Ugarte over this past weekend, and a slightly different take on things. That Ditto is going to be so fun.
It could be really game-changing in this matchup. We'll have to see whether or not Ian decides to bring it. But look at that, Ian, the Portland regional champion, but also getting some great results in the online challenges, showing us that they have the proficiency to play in best of 3 open team sheet, but closed team sheet best of 1. And that really sets the stage of how good of a trainer that Ian is.
As they get settled on the stage, I'd love to see a Glalie coming out, as that plushie was showing us there, but no, it's time to take a deeper dive into the Pokemon that Ian has on their team. There is that Ditto now with the imposter ability. It will instantly transform, we see you there, Ian, into its opponent on the other side of the field that's directly facing it, copying all of their stat boosts. Many things are the same. The PP is not, the HP is not either, but in the right position, it can turn games around. Volcarona, not a Pokemon we commonly see in this format either. Same can be said for the Grimmsnarl.
Grimmsnarl is really good in this team composition. It's able to set up those reflect and light screens for 8 turns because of that light clay, but also making sure that the Volcarona has the space to be able to set up its quiver dances. And one of the nice things when it's playing up against a Calyrex Shadow Rider is you can get those quiver dances going up, and then the Calyrex Shadow Rider has to get their boost, then Ditto comes in and copies it with its imposter ability. And the Focus Sash, that really does change up lots of different game states. In many ways, Ditto is the second restricted Pokemon on Ian's team, and it's going to be fascinating to see if Ian is bringing it to the game, whether or not we can get our 3 restricted Pokemon on the field at the same time.
It takes a really skilled trainer to run a Ditto team. Ian's first top cut in a restricted meta as well, so showing their flexibility to be able to adapt to any meta they may choose, and adaptability is certainly the name of the game, what with that Ditto, but also with the Trick Room or Tailwind mode over on Louis Fonvier's side of the field.
The ability to go fast or slow is a really powerful combination to have in a team, and it takes a master to be able to work out whether or not to go for the fast mode, whether or not to go for the slow mode. Calyrex Ice Rider Amoonguss, Landorus, Urshifu, Ogerpon, and Roaring Moon.
Roaring Moon with Terra Flying and Booster Energy and Acrobatics, they all synergize together so nicely. Acrobatics gets the boost when its item is lost, and of course the Booster Energy goes off as soon as Roaring Moon hits the field, then Terra Flying bolstering the power of that flying type move as well as completely switching up its weaknesses, though will retain a weakness to ice.
This team has so many good supportive options on it, not just the taunt on the Urshifu that's been doing so much work in the Masters Division over this weekend, but also you've got that double redirection with Amoonguss and Ogerpon Half-Flame, Grass-type Pokemon doing really well in this format. And look at this, we said it earlier, Louis has won 3 consecutive EU regionals on his way to EUIC. This could be the 4th in a row.
It would be absolutely unprecedented right here in the Pokemon competitive video game, and certainly Louis is looking ready to be locked in. Certainly a lot more focused than that adorable Pikachu on the desk there. Here are Louis' friends and family keeping their fingers crossed. Let's see how this match is about to unfold. I'm sure they are beyond proud of Louis no matter what happens, and the same can be said for Ian's friends and family.
This is what it all comes down to. We're on Championship Sunday here. We're getting into our seniors finals. These trainers look locked in and ready to get this match underway.
Glalie, look alive, my friend. We're about to get into our seniors finals. Now, Ben, if you're looking at this matchup, what are the key things to consider?
You know, I think it really comes down in the early game to the Miraidon being able to get some damage down. It's going to be one of the fastest Pokemon in this matchup, and it's really got to be taken advantage of for Ian. Now, the question for me is whether Louis is going for that fast or slow mode. He does have the option. Roaring Moon, with its Booster Energy Speed Boost, would be able to be faster than a Miraidon, get the Tailwind set up, allow Louis' Pokemon to get into a good position, but equally equally, there's that redirection with Amoonguss and Calyrex Ice Rider, and we saw that already in the Juniors finals. That strategy is equally valid here for Louis.
Do you prefer your vehicles motorized or not? Do you prefer the Miraidon or do you prefer the Calyrex Ice Rider? Let's see which restricted comes out on top here. Of course, Calyrex Shadow Rider has already done it. Will its Frosty brother join it in our EUIC Champions roster? Let's hit the field, trainers. Make some noise for Ian Larson, Louis Fonvier, Miraidon and Urshifu versus Landorus and Ogerpon Hearthflame.
And the Miraidon's going to put pressure on the board immediately there, but likely in front of this Landorus going to be wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. Now, it's not guaranteed that a Volt Switch will be able to land into the Ogerpon because it can go straight for a spiky shield. But of course, if you do that, you're allowing the Urshifu on Ian's side to be able to get a Surging Strikes going. Now, neither of these Pokemon want to take it, but if these are like Justin's team from San Antonio, then this Ogerpon will be made to be able to take this Surging Strikes.
And of course, with Landorus, it has the Terra Water, but do you really want to go for that when you've got Miraidon there as well on successive turns? Could take advantage of that Terrestrialization and deal super effective electric type damage. There's Miraidon going for its Terrestrialization. In any case, Terra Fairy.
Terra Fairy going to stop it taking super effective damage, of course, from ground-type attacks from that Landorus, but it's going to open the doors of Draco Meteor.
Draco Meteor connects right into Louis Ogerpon. The one-hit KO. It couldn't be a more explosive start to kick off our video game senior finals.
And this Urshifu's going to get a chance to get a Surging Strike, so we're going to get a double KO here.
Gracious me, we certainly are, Ben. That's one strike. You don't even need the third. That's two strikes. That is Landorus already down. Ian immediately on the front foot.
What an explosive turn one in this game. Now, Ian has got two Pokemon knocked out and has two Pokemon in the back. Louis has to work out a way to come back into this match with only their two Pokemon. Of course, Ian has used that Draco Meteor from the Miraidon. It's not going to be as powerful as it could be, but this Urshifu is still putting on so much pressure, and especially with its Mystic Water as well. You know, if you're Ian, you're probably pretty happy to just land Draco Meteor after Draco Meteor, even if it's not doing as much damage as when you first use it. You're conditioning Louis to have to knock out that Miraidon, and if you just leave it go for Draco Meteor, it's still going to whittle away the health bars on Louis' side.
Draco Meteor reduces your special attack by 2 stages. With each connection that it makes, it's going to be Louis' Urshifu hitting the field. Really valuable information for Ian here, seeing what 2 Pokemon are in the back for Louis. It might be that Ian doesn't even need to reveal the 2 Pokemon they have in the back, which is really an advantage heading into Game 2, because it means that Louis doesn't have such an insight into their game plan.
Now, this combination of Draco Meteor and Surging Strikes may not be able to get the KO on Calyrex Ice Rider that's just come in because it's so bulky. And if there is an opportunity for Louis to set up a Trick Room, maybe there's an opportunity for Calyrex to set up a reverse sweep with that Urshifu as well.
It's true, if there's one Pokemon that can do it, it could well be the Calyrex Ice Rider. Urshifu doesn't want to take any damage. Good call, because the Draco Meteor was going into that Protect Shield there. This Calyrex so far left alone. Surging Strikes is not going to be doing too much damage at all. The advantage of having a slow Pokemon is you can invest more in its bulk. It sponges those up very nicely indeed. Now, all eyes on Louis' Calyrex Ice Rider. Is it going to be able to set up that Trick Room? Yes, it is. Is the reverse sweeping coming? Only time will tell.
It's certainly possible. This was definitely the first stage for that to be able to happen. And something I want to call out here is that Surging Strikes did less than 50% to this Calyrex Ice Rider. That's important. It's going to mean that even if Urshifu on Ian's side is slower or faster in Trick Room than Louis', it's going to be able to get at least one more Glacial Lance, potentially 2 or more off onto Ian's side, and that's what Ian really needs. Louis really needs to set up this reverse sweep.
Are Urshifu and Calyrex Ice Rider going to have what it takes? Oh, it's a switch out from Ian's Miraidon. What's coming in from the back?
Oh,
there it is, trainers.
Here it is.
It's the Ditto. If there's one way Ian might be able to claim their footing back in this game, it's by transforming into Louis' Restricted. You got two restricted Pokemon essentially now. If you're Ian, what's going to go down in this turn? The Terrestrialization, and it's going to be heading right into Louis'. Urshifu rapid strike here, going for its Terra Water.
And this combination of Mystic Water and Terra Water Surging Strikes really does make the difference. It does way more damage than maybe a lot of trainers would be expecting. The highest horsepower coming into the Urshifu. It is Louis' Urshifu that is going first. The Surging Strikes follow up into the Urshifu.
Into the Urshifu and not that Calyrex Ice Rider slot. Looks like the Urshifu on the inside of the field is going to be able to hang on.
And it's going to be able to respond in kind with a Surging Strikes of its own. And now Ian setting up the board position to be able to try to knock out this Calyrex Ice Rider on the next turn. Here's the first Surging Strikes. Here's the second one. They always get that critical hit. And the Calyrex is hanging on by a sliver.
As we saw from those damage calculations on the previous turn. Now, Louis' own Urshifu at full HP. The Ditto that is not, in fact, a Calyrex Ice Rider. It's just posing as that, ready to threaten a KO, getting a Chilling Neigh boost.
And of course, there is Aqua Jet on Ian's Urshifu, so he's able to go for that into Calyrex on Louis' side and pick up an easy KO there. Of course, with the Unseen Fist ability, the Aqua Jet will go through any Protect if Calyrex wants to go for it. But here's the Aqua Jet coming in. Terra Water Aqua Jet is enough to knock out the Urshifu, and Calyrex is going to be able to attack with a Glacial Lance unless this Ditto goes first.
No, it will be the Ditto going for the Glacial Lance. It's going to be enough to secure the knockout onto Louis' Calyrex there. It's going to get his Chilling Neigh boost. It's just Louis' Urshifu left.
And Urshifu is going to have to knock out all of the Pokemon on Ian's side, but it can only target one Pokemon at a time. Now, this is a little bit dicey for Ian because the Urshifu will be able to get a Surging Strike, probably KO into Ditto here. Even though the Calyrex was able to hold on Louis' side, Ditto doesn't copy the HP stats, so it's a little bit less bulky than a normal Calyrex Shadow Rider. And this Grimmsnarl, there's a nice interaction here for Ian where Foul Play is going to be the damage-dealing move of choice, but Urshifu has dropped its fighting type and resistance to Foul Play to be able to do that damage into Urshifu.
Now then, with the Grimmsnarl, you do have access to something like Thunder Wave, but of course then you're reducing this Urshifu's speed. It could be fully paralyzed on a successive turn. If you set up the screens, those critical hits will just be hitting right through. For now, Louis is just going to be protecting.
I think this is wise, trying to get through as much of the Trick Room as possible, but you do want to take a knockout while Trick Room is still up because you do need to deal with that Miraidon in the back. If we go through all of the turns of Trick Room and the Miraidon comes out, it will be able to outspeed the Urshifu on Louis' side and then pick up an easy KO with any of its electric-type moves.
Will this be the little Urshifu that could? Of course, the Miraidon in the back for Ian has gone for its Fairy-type Terrestrialization. It's no longer resisting those Surging Strikes. Foul Play, really nice damage. Is this Glacial Lance going to be enough to secure game one for Ian?
Yes, it is.
That's going to be Ian securing game one step closer to being your senior division EUIC VG champion.
One step closer, one hoof closer, as we were saying before. Ian playing that game so well. It really did come down to that turn one of that match. Such an explosive turn one, but Louis did so well to bring it back. Losing two Pokemon on your side of the field for free in turn one is not really what most of our strategies are revolving around in the video game. But Louis found an option. If there is a way for Louis to get through that turn one and be able to do so without taking so much damage, without losing two Pokemon at the same time, there really could be a very even matchup here.
But this is it. Draco Meteor connecting into an Ogerpon that didn't protect, didn't go for Follow Me either. Only we will never know what move that Ogerpon was locking into there. But Louis absolutely delighted on the stage. You need to get more out of those two pieces that were so crucial. They would have been so crucial. Of course, Landorus with Sludge Bomb as well as those ground type moves. It threatens Miraidon whether it goes for its Terrestrialization or not.
One thing that these trainers have learned, though, is the Urshifu on Ian's side is pretty speedy, and the Landorus that Louis trained has been trained to be slower than it, so it was able to go first. Now, Urshifu is able to be knocked out by a Landorus with the Life Orb, with the sheer force boost on an Earth Power, so that turn could have gone completely differently, depending on how these trainers had trained their Pokemon. As it stands, I think we'll see a big switch up here from Louis, trying to go for another strategy there, because they know now that the Landorus is gonna be under a lot of pressure. Here it is, Calyrex and Ogerpon, Miraidon and Urshifu kicking us off for game 2.
Let's make some noise for game 2, everybody! Miraidon versus the Calyrex Ice Rider is both restricted on the field. Urshifu staring down Ogerpon half flame.
And now this is a completely different environment that these trainers are playing in. Ian won't be able to get a double knockout here, not with the Ogerpon being able to go for a follow me. And that Trick Room environment that really did allow Louis to have a little bit more of a foothold in the game is going to be able to put him on the front foot a little bit sooner, and with one more Pokemon at his disposal.
One more Pokemon, but is that one more Pokemon going to be enough to secure the game here? Ian taking their time to decide where to target. The Miraidon threatening so much damage here, but again, the Ogerpon could soak up some of that electricity. Miraidon threatens so much on the field that even not very effective moves can look like they deal neutral damage.
And these trainers are taking their time here to work out exactly how they're going to be locking in. But one thing's for sure, we're going to be starting off with a Terastallization on the Miraidon.
Miraidon going for its Terra Fairy once again. Is this going to prove to be the correct option? Miraidon from Area 0 to Hero on the field. Follow me coming out from the Ogerpon. Let's hope that it has enough gas in the tank to see it through. This turn one, Draco Meteor is going to miss into the Ogerpon. Surging Strikes connecting down is going to be easily enough to soak up the damage coming out from Urshifu. It's going to remain on the field.
Look at that defense training on the Ogerpon.
Yeah.
Normally you'd expect it to go down to just a sliver of HP if not being knocked out with that Mystic Water Surging Strikes. Now Ogerpon gets a chance to reply this time. Now the Trick Room is twisting the dimensions. Ogerpon with its grass type coverage is going to be able to do a lot of damage to the Urshifu, and of course we have that Glacial Lance now in play. The one thing that's different though is this Miraidon doesn't have a special attack drop, so if you're not able to knock it out this turn, if you're Louis, you've got to be really worried about whether or not that Draco Meteor is going to connect yet again.
Such a powerful move, but not a perfect one. Nothing is, as Glacial Lance does take Miraidon down to about a third. A responding Ivy Cudgel isn't going to be enough for the KO. It is! Miraidon is down, the restricted Pokemon down, the Terastallization option down for Ian. Louis saying no, I am here at the EUIC Senior Finals, and I'm in business. Another Surging Strikes connecting down into that Half-Flame Pokemon. It's going to be enough to secure the knockout this time.
A KO apiece. The Calyrex didn't get the knockout, so didn't get its Chilling Neigh boost, and both of these trainers are going to have to bring in a Pokemon from the back, and they're going to be able to adapt to this board state. Now, we have seen that the Miraidon did get positioned opposite the Calyrex, and that's going to allow Grimmsnarl or Ditto to come in. If Ditto comes in, it will transform into that Calyrex like Ian did in game 1. Urshifu the choice for Louis, and it's going to be the Grimmsnarl instead coming out for Ian, trying to leverage the power of that foul play.
Louis once again on the front foot in this game, because of course with Urshifu, again, you hit right through those screens, you set them up, but the critical hits just ignore it.
And that's going to mean that the Urshifus are going to be damaging their respective partners just that little bit more. Grimmsnarl is a Pokemon that you might actually, if you're Louis, want to keep on the field though, because foul play, if Louis goes for their Terra option onto the Calyrex, is not going to be hitting the Calyrex for super effective damage anymore, but it does get more powerful for every Chilling Neigh boost, so it's a little bit of a difficult decision about when you take that knockout.
You can only put 4 moves on each Pokemon trainers, but Grimmsnarl is one that wants to run more. Calyrex Ice Rider is going to go for its Terra Fairy here. The Terastallization that proved so crucial at San Antonio, and indeed for Louis back at the Birmingham Regional Championships. Urshifu over on the inside of the field will be protecting itself.
And it's going to be the Grimmsnarl going for the Reflect, just making sure that Louis' damage is not going to be hitting just that little bit less hard. Glacial Lance going into this Protect and into the Grimmsnarl. Let's see how much damage this is getting off. Just less than 50%, but there's going to be a follow-up. The Surging Strikes coming in, critical hitting through that Reflect.
It's not very effective damage, but every little bit of chip adds up, trainers, and it softens up the Pokemon on the inside of the field for potentially a double KO coming in future turns from the Calyrex Ice Rider, giving it a Chilling Neigh boost. However, that Grimmsnarl and with the Reflect still looking pretty healthy.
It looks like another 2 Glacial Lances will be able to pick up the KO, but of course Trick Room is getting closer and closer to reversing itself back, and the Calyrex then will be able to be going slower. And so Louis got to find a way to get as much of Ian's Pokemon down as possible, as quickly as possible, while he still has that speed advantage.
Okay, Grimmsnarl going to the back. It was the hero in game one, and it's going to be rejoining the field. Here comes Ditto, and here comes another Calyrex Ice Rider on the field.
Calyrex Ice Rider not copying the Terrestrialization option for Lewis and will be maintaining its Ice and Psychic type there, but will be getting that Chilling Neigh ability there. Glacial Lance coming in, putting a lot of damage on Urshifu, and Ditto really hanging on, but it is this Surging Strikes that's going to pick up the KO on Urshifu now.
The dividends that Reflect is paying, despite the Surging Strikes that hit right through it, is going to be Ian losing the Urshifu down to just 2 Pokemon, Grimmsnarl and Calyrex Ice Rider.
Now this Calyrex on Ian's side is going to be resisting Glacial Lances, but because Louis has gone for the Terra Fairy, it's not going to be able to resist those anymore. So the Ditto on Ian's side is going to be able to get those Glacial Lances and put a little bit of damage onto the Calyrex on Louis' side. But I think with the Surging Strike pressure that Urshifu, especially since both of these Pokemon are at full HP, is going to be able to dish out. It's looking like Louis is going to be getting closer to taking us to a Game 3.
Interesting play here, Thunder Wave. It will mean the Urshifu is acting more slowly, which is what you want in Trick Room when the speed order is reversed. And there it is. It's going off before it would have done in the prior turn, but it might also get fully paralyzed on a successive one. But it is bringing down this Ditto that looks like a Calyrex Ice Rider pretty low.
This is
Louis'
close.
Calyrex Ice Rider going to be going first? No, it's going to be the Glacial Lance connecting down over on Louis' side of the field. The Calyrex are looking so healthy. Here comes another Glacial Lance. Ian's Pokemon softened up. You've got to reflect on, no, the Ditto is going to be able to hang on here.
Twisted Dimensions now returning to normal, so the effect of that Thunder Wave will be paramount in this position. Now Grimmsnarl gets to go for it onto the Calyrex. Let's not forget there is another Pokemon in the back for Louis, so Louis can maybe take advantage of the fact that the Aqua Jet is the move of choice over close combat on their Urshifu to avoid this paralysis speed drop.
All eyes on what that final Pokemon is for Louis here. Grimmsnarl attempting a Thunder Wave into the Calyrex, but it goes for its Protect. It's going to be safe.
Surging Strikes, though, going into the Calyrex on Ian's side. Going first, maybe indicating that this Calyrex was trying to go for a Trick Room to put that Grimmsnarl into a little bit of a better position, but it is a big knockout. Only Grimmsnarl now to knock out for Louis.
And the forfeits locked in. Louis Fonvier showing why they've been on such a tear the past few events and not wanting it to end here, showing they have enough gas in the tank to keep up that consecutive streak. Trainers, we're going to go to a Game 3.
This is what you want to see, our trainers battling it out, going to a Game 3. We get more Pokemon, and of course, we get to showcase the skill of these trainers here. Now, this game was completely different from Game 1. We saw that Trick Room coming out for Louis. He was able to avoid that Draco Meteor in turn 1. That really did allow the Ogerpon to get that KO onto the Miraidon, but the Ogerpon would have been able to be knocked out and switched into another slot, and that would have put a lot of pressure back on Ian as well.
Decisions, missing moves, connecting moves, but one thing's for certain, by the end of this next game, we will know who our EUIC senior champion is. The Grimmsnarl, it was so nice to be able to set up those screens, but in the end game, it just wasn't exerting enough pressure. The Ditto, as the Calyrex Ice Rider, certainly was, but it was on such low HP, and you're so right, Ben, with the Ditto not copying the HP stat of the opposing Calyrex Ice Rider, it is just crucial in terms of softening up the Ditto all the more. You need some gas in the tank. You need to play that game of how much support you bring to your offensive pieces.
I think the real thing that's important for Ian looking at this game, coming back in from a loss in Game 2, is that the Trick Room is the strategy of choice for Louis. And I think he's going to have to sort of dig deep and find a way to be able to put more pressure on in the early game. Maybe get that Ditto in that little bit earlier. Maybe go for those accurate Volt switches into the Ogerpon, switch it out into the Ditto, get a Calyrex on your side, put that pressure on, but also be able to get a KO with a follow-up on the Surging Strikes.
Yeah, there was that turn where Grimmsnarl switched in instead of the Ditto when it could have been in front of the Calyrex Ice Rider. Ian deciding to keep it in the back, but it all comes down to this. Everybody go wild for our Game 3 between Ian Larson and Louis Fonvier.
It's the Grimmsnarl in the lead here with the Miraidon. So the Miraidon putting a lot of pressure on with that Draco Meteor as it's done game after game after game. It can go for its Terra Fairy as it's been going for the safe option for this Miraidon to go for, making sure that if Louis decided to go for just a Glacial Lance in this position alongside a Follow Me, that he's not going to get his Miraidon knocked out straight away.
The Calyrex Ice Rider over on Louis' side of the field does, of course, have that Terra Fairy option. So a Draco Meteor into that slot might not be the safest. If Louis makes that read, here comes that Terra once more into Miraidon. It's from the future, and now it's a Fairy on the field. It's Hadron Engine activated with the electric terrain. It is so kindly set up for itself. Just the Calyrex keeping itself safe.
Calyrex going for a Protect, just making sure that it's not taking any damage this turn. Grimmsnarl gets that Reflect that's going to drop down the damage of both the Ogerpon.
Oh, there it is!
Here.
Another connect! Ogerpon, the one-hit KO, just like in game one. Ian Larson got that foot in this game.
And the Grimmsnarl could have been following up with a foul play there. Louis wanting to not fall foul of that whatsoever. But now the Landorus gets to swap in, and it's not going to likely be knocked out by a 2- Draco Meteor from this Miraidon. So there's a lot of play here that the Landorus can go for. But of course, the Grimmsnarl does have access to that light screen as well. It can drop down the damage of that Landorus coming in and mean that Miraidon isn't quite under as much threat.
Of course, the Miraidon is really threatened in this position because it cannot protect. You could switch something in from the back if you're Ian, but then you're taking a huge amount of damage there. Do you really want to lose your restricted Pokemon so early on?
I think if the Louis sets up the Trick Room, you definitely don't want that Miraidon in there. It's done what it needed to do in turn one. It's got a KO. Now it's going to switch out, reset those boosts, and gets ready for later.
Time for Ditto to return to the field much earlier than it did in the previous two games. It's become a Calyrex Ice Rider once more, and now the tables are flipped. It's going to be the Landorus that's far more threatened than that Miraidon was on the previous turn.
And it's going to be the Calyrex, the transform of choice, the Sludge Bomb going into the Grimmsnarl. Super effective! One-hit KO, no light screen!
Onto the Grimmsnarl, there is no more light screen in this decisive Game 3 between our senior division finalists. Glacial Lance, just a little bit of chip damage onto Ian's Ditto, but again, not taking it as well as Louis' own Calyrex Ice Rider would.
And Louis holding the Terra option there for himself as well. Now Miraidon switching back in.
Three restricteds on the field.
Three restricteds on the field, but no Trick Room. Now this Miraidon that's come in can go for its big electric type attacks into the Calyrex. Doesn't matter whether it terrors or not. Now, if you lock that in, you're not going to be able to do any damage to the Landorus, but you have got a Calyrex on your side of the field as well. Its super effective ice type damage will be putting pressure on the Landorus to go for a Terror, but if it does, then it turns into a water type and can be knocked out by this Miraidon.
Rock, paper, scissors, these trainers trying to match each other turn by turn. Landorus is just going to be scouting out for what Ian's deciding here. Just a double protect here for Louis. This Miraidon now, whatever move it chooses, it's going to be locked into it. Electro Drift into the Calyrex Ice Rider. Holding the choice specs, it would have to switch out and back in to reset the move it's locked into. And Ditto going for that Glacial Lance.
But now Landorus knows that it's going to need to think about going for its Terra Water in this situation where Calyrex is in front of it, because it's going to be susceptible to a Glacial Lance, and it's going to be very difficult to guarantee the knockout into Calyrex, the Ditto on Ian's side of the field, because it doesn't have the same sort of output as the Landorus doesn't have quite enough output with its Earth Power to be able to pick up that KO.
What is the final Pokemon for Louis here? Is it going to be able to soak up some of this damage better? We'll find out on another turn, because Landorus is going for its Terastallization. It's become a water type. The first time we've seen it do this in this 3-game thriller. It's going to be resisting those Glacial Lances here. Electro Drift, though, going right down into Louis' Calyrex Ice Rider in the electric terrain. Oh my goodness gracious!
One-hit KO!
It's enough for the one-hit KO! One-hit KO! Left, right, and center.
Now this Landorus is a water type. Next turn it's going to be susceptible. There's going to be no Trick Room going up.
The Sludge Bomb not enough. Hangs on. It's not a one-hit KO. It feels fresh saying that one as Glacial Lance removes a third of Landorus's HP.
Electro Drift going from immune to be super effective onto that Landorus. It's going to be able to pick up the KO, but Urshifu is coming in for Louis to save the day. It's got access to Aqua Jet, and with Miraidon at only 20 hit points, it's going to be able to pick up up a KO with its priority moves before the Miraidon is going to be able to act.
Does Ian switch something out? Do you take the KO there, deciding that your Miraidon's done what it needs to do? Does Louis even go for the Aqua Jet? Are they thinking along a different line? Everything's on the line here, trainers. It's your senior finals for EUIC 2025. Whoever wins this game will be your champion.
Let's see if these trainers can dig deep and find their last win conditions. Louis only has 2 Pokemon left. Aqua Jet's gonna make Ian only have 2 Pokemon left at his disposal. Ditto and 1 more Pokemon unrevealed in the back.
At least you have your Ditto transformed into the Calyrex Ice Rider, but it is staring down 2 water types. Here comes a big Earth Power from the Landorus. Ditto able to hang on through that, responding high horsepower into Louis' Urshifu, takes it really quite well.
Okay, it's all down to what this last Pokemon is in the back. We've seen this Urshifu. It's able to outspeed the Landorus on Louis' side. The Landorus has taken attack after attack after attack, and maybe it's a water type, maybe it's going to be able to resist those surging strikes, but it's not going to be able to resist a close combat in this situation. It's not going to be able to protect itself either.
And you soften yourself up if you go for the close combat. You drop your defenses. The Urshifu isn't holding a focus sash. It makes itself so much more vulnerable to a close combat from Louis' Urshifu. That's going to be the close combat into the Landorus. It's going to take it down.
And is it going to be a double KO? Unlikely here. The Calyrex is going to be able to go for a high horsepower or a single target Glacial Lance into this Urshifu on Louis' side. If it's going to be able to take that attack. Well, it's not going to have to, because the Surging Strike's going into the Ditto and picking up the knockout here. Now Ian's Urshifu is the faster of the 2, but it's dropped its defenses.
Urshifu versus Urshifu, what a perfect way to end our senior division EUIC track through this EUIC. Urshifu has been dominant in the usage stats all weekend, and here they are staring each other down. That little bit of chip damage on Louis, though, could be crucial.
If you go for a close combat, if you're Ian, then you drop your defense and special defense down 1 more stage. That's going to allow us close combat to be able to pick up the KO. But here is the Surging Strikes not going to be picking up the KO, but Ian not wanting to drop their defenses in this situation.
Had Ian gone for the close combat, maybe it would have been a knockout there, but Louis Urshifu now has the opportunity to respond. Is it going to be securing Louis as our champion? It's not going to be enough damage there. Ian's Urshifu soaking this up. This game is slowly but surely coming to a wrap.
Ian playing this game very, very well, this end game, because he's been able to soften up Louis' Urshifu. Now, it has been Ian's that have been going for the close combat.
To Louis Urshifu, it's going to be the KO. We have our senior EUIC champion, Ian Larson!